What is up, everybody? Welcome into Flippin Bats, where there is a lot happening this week in the baseball world. It's the off season, but that means winter meetings happen, and they are happening right now. They go on until Wednesday. We'll talk all about the winter meetings, what's happening there, what exactly the winter meetings are. Also, some Shohei Ohtani news came out, which is a perfect time for this week in Shohei Ohtani news. We're going to talk about potential landing spots, some of the front runners, how likely it might be for him to end up there. A big trade that happened Sunday night in the baseball world. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get to it.
Fly ball onto the track, at the wall, it's gone! Home run!
Turns on a ball, deep right field, and gone!
What a game, what a moment.
What is up, my friends? Happy new week. There's still a lot going on in the baseball world, Alex. First off, this weekend, how was your weekend? What'd you do? What have you done since we last talked?
I mean, I think the most important thing that happened this weekend was Ben being in Vegas and sleeping through our meeting yesterday, completely forgetting what was going on. So I just wish I was there
Vegas
to see Party Ben. I love it, which is okay. I've been keeping it mellow this week because I leave for Mexico on Wednesday, and I'm going to be in Cancun at the Closer to the Sun Festival for like a week. So
What is it?
Closer to the Sun Festival, it's like Slightly Stupid, Stick Figure, Pepper. It's like that whole genre. It's like a 4-day music festival with music from like noon to 2 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah, on the beach. It's going to be great.
Wow, that'll be cool.
Yeah, it's going to be wild.
Cool. Yeah, Vegas was fun. Good time.
Missed the meeting.
Yeah.
Which I love.
But
I love that for you.
Vegas.
That's okay.
It happens.
You know what else happened this weekend?
What?
The winter meetings kicked off.
Yes.
Sunday. Everybody is in Nashville. Like, this is the place to be.
I went to the winter
if you're
meetings
in
last
baseball.
year.
You did in San Diego.
Yeah, I was in San Diego.
You drove
this
down.
year, it's a little bit further away.
A little further.
So I drove down last year, had never experienced the winter meeting.
I have never experienced it, so give it to us.
And this is the perfect explanation, because last year, I was playing a few years ago, really had no idea on this side of the business, like what exactly the winter meetings are. So I was like, wow, they're down in San Diego. I'll drive down for a day. So I drove down there, and it is the biggest just networking event for baseball media people of all time. So I get there, obviously, it's the same at the World Series, everybody's there. It's
Everyone's
the same thing, same crew. They're just all at the winter meetings. So I get there, I'm talking to some of the people last year. I'm just like, so what is this?
Yeah.
So basically the winter meetings started a long time ago, before cell phones, before phones, and all the GMs would get together, have meetings. And then at the end of the night, I could say, hey, let's go to the bar, grab a drink, and they'll write down trades on a piece of paper or things like that. And that's where deals would get done. So deals still do get done at the winter meetings. Obviously, all the GMs, a lot of managers, players show up looking for jobs. That all happens in this one place. But really, I just feel like it's a massive networking event for the media and to talk to people. And everybody just convenes in this one place. As you said, it's Nashville this year. And a lot of trades and free agent talk goes down. I
mean, it's crazy when you think about it. When you have every GM, right? All the top agents, reporters, it is the place to be. And we're already getting some kind of big names and rumors floating around of deals that should be getting done this week. This is probably the biggest deal week during the offseason. And one of the first names you kind of hear floating around is Juan Soto. We heard some rumors there, possibly Blue Jays, Yankees, but then the Blue Jays maybe were in contention for Otani, so they were keeping it quiet until we see what happens with Otani this week. But besides that, Cody Bellinger, Blake Snell, these are some names we might see moving this week.
Yeah, they're all the biggest names. What happens, and maybe those names don't sign or get traded this week, but it just really gets the ball rolling. When I was there last year, you hit up, I know some bigger agents in the baseball agency industry, and, would hit them up and say, hey, I'm at the winter meetings, and they're all, some of them, I'm in meetings from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. tonight. It's just crazy. A massive, going around, talking to GMs, talking to their players, doing this, doing that. And there are a lot of guys. Kyle Tucker was at the winter meetings last year. So players do go.
Interesting.
A lot of them just go. I think he won an award and ended up being there, but There are a lot of players that are free agents. They're looking for jobs will show up and talk to GMs, talk to managers and stuff. So I walked away feeling like I'm glad I went.
Yeah.
One day was fine for me.
What do you do? Just like kind of hang out in the lobby of the main? Is there like one main place where like everything happens, where everyone stays?
So last year when it was in San Diego, it was like this massive convention center. Well, it was at a hotel.
Yeah.
So
that has conference rooms, like big conference rooms.
So you walk
everywhere.
in and it's like the lobby of the hotel, and there's just so much going on. Like you immediately realize what's happening. And then there's like these conference centers where meetings will happen. This was last year when David Justice was inducted into the Hall of Fame via the committee. That's what happened with Jim Leyland. So Jim Leyland will probably be there within a few days and do a press conference there for the Hall of Fame. And, they'll do meetings there. Players will show up and do talks. And it's just, there's a lot going on. Last year was the WBC. So this was crazy, actually. All the WBC managers flew in. And Mr. Kuriyama of Team Japan flew from Japan for that one meeting, one night, and flew out the next day. So it was like a 15-hour flight there, had like a 30-minute obligation.
Just a little commute, easy
commute. A 30-minute obligation.
NBD.
Got a dinner, flew back the next day, another 15 hours.
Well, it's what you got to do. It's the winter meetings. We already had our first trade last night. Mariners and Braves. Break it down for us.
This trade was wild. So, yes, the Mariners and Jerry Dipoto up to their old antics, trading, making a million trades. That's what they do. This one, a bit confusing. So bear with me here. Here are the details. The full deal. Mariners send Jared Kelenic, left-handed pitcher Marco Gonzalez, and first baseman Evan White, prospect, to the Braves for pitchers Jackson Kowar and Cole Phillips. That is what you call a head-scratcher.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all the Braves have to send to get Jared Kelenic. And the Braves, by the way, aren't even planning on keeping Marco Gonzalez. The fallout from last night's Braves-Mariners trade, the Braves do not plan on keeping left-hander Marco Gonzalez, expected to be part of another deal. Destination unknown. So
crazy.
Jared Kelenic, one of the biggest prospects in baseball as he was coming up, makes his debut over the last couple of years, doesn't go well. Last year really shows signs of becoming that superstar that I think many people thought he could be. Then injuries kind of messed up his season. So it looks like he kind of turned things around last year and become that superstar. That's the big piece here. And then to get in return, and another prospect, Evan White. So to get in return two pitchers for the Braves that aren't, that aren't these massive big-time prospects, the question becomes, what are the Mariners doing?
Yeah.
Really? That's it? That's the whole trade? So to me, this is a massive salary dump. It has to be. And then the question becomes, well, what are they doing with that? And if the answer is going to be nothing, it's a direct slap in the face to every Seattle Mariners fan, to every player on the team, to everybody in the organization. The only way this is even remotely acceptable is if they're shedding money to go get some big-time, major league ready talent. All-stars, Shohei, hell, I don't care. I mean, what are you doing?
That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Are you doing this to make space and create space for Shohei Ohtani? Because they kind of, a month or two, a couple weeks ago, I think maybe it was like, oh, Mariners out of the Shohei Ohtani race. Could be a tactic.
Yeah.
Could be like, hey, we just don't want anybody to know about this. We're going to do this under wraps.
Yeah, so
we like Seattle.
It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense unless, the caveat being, unless they already have plans and the ball in motion on other things, and they realized they were going to need to shed some money and free up some of the books a little bit. Other than that, it just doesn't make sense. You finally get your guy. Jared Kelenic was the guy before Julio was going to be the guy, right? He was a little bit ahead. He was a superstar. He was going to change the organization. He was the left-handed outfielder for the Mariners going forward. He was going to be God's gift to earth, right? Well, it didn't exactly work out as planned, and he kept going up and down, and he was the epitome of the 4A player, right? Way too good for AAA, not quite figuring it out at the big leagues. But last year he did, and he started to. And now you're just trading him away to the Braves for something that you didn't get near enough in return for. Clearly a salary dump. Why becomes the answer. And if there is no why, then this is unacceptable and makes absolutely no sense.
Well, that leads us to the biggest name in free agency right now. At winter meetings yesterday, we found out breaking news. Shohei Ohtani is going to be making his decision, most likely this week.
Well, that leads perfectly, Alex, into this week in Shohei Ohtani news. And because of that news that you just mentioned, last week on this segment, we said, okay, what we're going to do every week until he signs, we're going to go team by team saying some of the most popular teams that I think he could sign with and why he would be a good fit there. Well, we did get some new news that came out saying Shohei Ohtani is likely to decide on a team within the next week, according to a source engaged with the top end of the free agent market. So, well, we might not have time to go team by team for too long. So what we're going to do is take 3 of the most popular teams, in my opinion, go through them, some of the pros and cons and all of that. But we really got to expedite this process now.
Because it can happen at any moment. We are officially on Shohei Ohtani watch right now. Winter meetings kicked off Sunday. That's when the news came out. They end on Wednesday. So there's a good chance that it happens sometime within that time frame. So we're going to go through, as Ben mentioned, the top 3 landing spots that you think he's going to end up. Going to give a pro, a con, and rating. So let's get started. First team, the Braves.
The Atlanta Braves are still a player in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. And we have the potential lineup in the board here. If you're watching and not just listening, obviously it's unbelievable and it's extremely deep and incredible. Yes. So the Braves are still players here. Even as of Monday, we saw the news that, yes, the Braves are still involved. So to me, Alex, the big glaring pro is that they have the biggest World Series window, I think, of anybody. I mean, you could pitch me the Baltimore Orioles, and I would be like, okay, I could see that, but they're not there yet.
Yeah.
The Braves are there. They're here. Their World Series window is open. It started a couple of years ago, and it's going to go for a long time. Why? Well, another pro being most of this lineup that we see in the wall here,
young.
Acuna, Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Albies, Sean Murphy, Michael Harris, they're all signed up and locked up for years and years. This lineup is not going anywhere. So that's obviously a really big pro. Another one would be the pitching for the Braves. This coming season, your pitching's in fine shape.
Yeah.
Well, guess who's not going to be able to pitch next year?
Ohtani.
Shohei. Guess who will be able to pitch in 2025? Ohtani. So that's when the Braves pitching rotation gets a few more question marks. It's 2025, not 2024. They'll be fine next year. 2025, more question marks. Well, what better way to answer that question than with a guy like Shohei Ohtani who will be able to pitch in 2025? So the pros to me are obvious and a very, I would say this scenario, it wouldn't shock me if it happens.
Yeah, okay, so pros are obvious with the Braves, right? It works well right now, and then it works well once he's back to full health and is able to pitch again.
Long-term.
Short-term, long-term. What is the con here for the Braves?
Well, the big con for me, I think, is, I talked about this lineup and how long they have everybody locked up for. And everybody knows the Braves way, right? You have all these superstars on big contracts that really aren't a ton of money. And you look at it and say, wow, that's a crazy deal. But they have so many of them that are really, it's great for the team's future, but I don't think they are able to offer Shohei the biggest contract possible because of all those deals they do have. They don't have that much room under the cap space. They don't have, I don't think, that much money available to go and give $500 million or more to Shohei Ohtani.
All right, on to the next team that I think most people think is at the top of the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes, the Dodgers. Why is this a good landing spot for Ohtani?
I think the biggest reason and the most glaring pro to me is their core of superstar players. I mean, look, we got the lineup in the wall again. Look at the top of this potential lineup if they land Shohei. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. MVPs everywhere you look. You add Shohei Ohtani there, you have Mookie, Freddie, Shohei. MVP, MVP, MVP.
Yeah.
What's not to like about that? It hasn't worked for Shohei Ohtani with one other MVP in the lineup. I'm sure it might work if you have two other MVPs.
I think that's more the franchise.
Lineup. So, yeah, this core of superstars to me is glaringly obvious reason that he could end up there. Another one being, I feel like we've been talking about it for over a year.
We have.
But the money behind this, what have they been doing over the last year? Clearing space for Shohei.
Yep.
Clearing space, making room, getting well under the luxury tax. They have money to spend. Nobody right now, well, there are teams that could, but nobody that's a player for Shohei has more money to spend on Shohei than the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's another glaringly obvious one.
Yeah.
Another one, location, familiarity. He lives just outside of Los Angeles. He lives in California. Geographical location, a huge pro for me. For him, but for me, for this.
For all of us.
One of the big reasons he signed with the Angels initially is because of the geographical location.
Better for Japan.
Better for people in Japan to be able to watch.
Yeah.
And the night games are easy for them to watch. The day games are even more possible to watch. On the East Coast, it's much more difficult for people in Japan to watch. I do think that plays a role. Is it the biggest factor? No, but it is definitely a pro. His familiarity with California in general, it's not that far of a move for him. And the geographical location of Los Angeles, I think, is something he likes as well. So money, superstars, this incredible lineup, and familiarity.
All I'm hearing is that it's a perfect fit with the Dodgers. Is there anything that's a downside? Is there a con for Shohei to the Dodgers?
Now we have to get to the cons for the Los Angeles Dodgers, which are none.
Exactly.
I do not see a con for Shohei Ohtani.
I don't either.
For the Dodgers in terms of whether or what they present to Shohei. Does that mean he's going to sign there? No, it just means there are plenty of pros, and there's really not a con. They got the money.
Yep.
They have the stars. They have their World Series window is there as well. That's a very good team. It's a good lineup. They need pitching. I guess that could have been close to it, but they're going to need some pitching, and he fills that void starting in 2025. So to me, this Dodgers fit, there's really not a con to it.
What would you rate this fit?
I would say this is a 9 out of a 10.
Oof.
A 10 is a sure thing. Obviously, it's not a sure thing yet, but I do think this fit for Shohei would be a 9 out of 10. This makes so much sense.
All the
this
sense.
Makes the most sense.
Yep.
I've been clamoring on about the Dodgers, and we both have
Since last year this
over
time.
a year at this point. So the fit seems to make sense. Will it happen? I don't know. There are at least a handful of other teams that will have a say in this, but the Dodgers are certainly a great fit. And if Shohei wants to be a Dodger, he will be a Dodger soon, and it will just have made a lot of sense.
The best part is we haven't heard anything about it either. It's been very quiet with the Dodgers camp. I think everybody had that idea like, oh, I think that's going to be his top landing spot, but we haven't heard anything. No leaks, no rumors, nothing. It's been quiet.
There's also the aspect of everything can make. Nobody really talks about if Shohei doesn't want to be a Dodger, he ain't going to be a Dodger, no matter how good the fit is.
Yeah.
And if he does, well, then he will be. But yeah, you can have the best fit in the world for any team out there. But if a player, for whatever reason, and it doesn't really matter what the reason is, has said, I don't really see myself there, then everything we talk about doesn't matter.
Gone.
It literally doesn't matter.
Yep.
He ain't going to go there anyway.
All right, well, let's move on to our third of the top 3 landing possible spots for Shohei Ohtani, and that's the Cubs. Why would the Cubs be a good fit for Ohtani?
Well, the biggest pro for me is their solid young core of players that will be around for a while. I really like Nico Hoerner. Again, the lineup is up here in the wall, but the top of the lineup, Christopher Morel, Nico Hoerner, Shohei Ohtani, you got Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki's on the team, Dansby Swanson, their new big acquisition there last year, going to be there for a while. I love PCA in the outfield. Pete Crow Armstrong, I think, is going to get his chance, depending on what happens with Cody Bellinger. But
You're thinking there might be a chance he comes back?
I do think there could be a chance. But I think if he doesn't, a big reason for that is because they believe in Pete Crow Armstrong out in the outfield, who will immediately prove to be one of the best defensive center fielders in all of baseball. The second you watch him out there, you realize. So their solid young core, to me, is a big, big reason. Another pro, they got the money to spend. You see what they've done this offseason, right? Okay, as of now, Cody Bellinger is off the books for next year, frees up some space. You pay the most money ever for a new manager in Craig Counsell to switch teams, switch rivals within the division, come over and be your manager. And I said it at the time. This is a sign. Yeah. This is a sign that the Cubs are going for it. You don't do that and then just kind of stand pat in the offseason and not do anything. You got the solid young core, you got money you're ready to spend. And I do think both of those reasons are a big reason why Shohei Ohtani could end up with the Chicago Cubs.
Okay, what's a downside? What's a con going to the Cubs?
I don't think they're there yet.
No.
I think they're on the cusp of being a playoff team. They were this year. I think that could be again next year. And you could even tell me they get into the playoffs next year. And I say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I believe in the direction this team is going. But their World Series window isn't yet open yet, which is what we've talked about with these other teams. The Dodgers, the Braves, those World Series windows are open. We talked about it last week with the Texas Rangers. Obviously, their World Series window's open. They just won it a month ago. So I just think the con for this Cubs team is Shohei wants to win. Yeah. And I think he wants to win now. He's spent far too long on a team that hasn't done any winning. Will the Cubs win next year? Yeah, you could tell me they make the playoffs. I'd say that makes sense. You could tell me they finish 500, and I'd say that makes sense. You could tell me they get to the World Series. I'd say, what? I don't know if that's going to happen yet. So I do think that's a con for Shohei. Is I think he wants to sign long-term. I think he wants to find his forever home. But the Cubs are still a couple years away, and maybe that's something he's okay with because he believes in the direction they're going and the solid young core that's the biggest pro for the Cubs. But they're just not ready right now.
And he deserves to be in a place that can win now. Yep. He is the best player in baseball, changing the game, and he has yet to even play in a playoff game. Yep. So it's kind of a big deal. What would you rate Ohtani to the Cubs?
I think at the beginning of the offseason, I would have given the Cubs about a 2 or a 3. I'm going to give them a 7 right now. I do think the Cubs are big-time players in this. And I would even go further and say, if it's not the Dodgers, I do think it'll be the Cubs.
Interesting. So they're your number 2.
They are. They've become bigger and bigger players here, and it's interesting with Shohei. I think this is fascinating. I was talking to some people about this over the last week, but if you sign a guy like Shohei, right? Say it's going to cost you $600 million, and this conversation is less about like where Shohei might sign, and more just like what Shohei brings.
An entire country with him.
Well, yes, an entire country, but you're spending over $500 million for what you get on the field, which I think is worth it. But if you sign a guy like Shohei Ohtani for the rest of his career, think about what that does for a city, for a team, for a fan base. Let's say Shohei plays 10 more years, 12 more years, whatever you want to say. His legacy with that team doesn't stop then.
No.
He, for years and years and years, and if he continues on this trajectory forever, Shohei will be remembered as this player. He ain't going to be remembered as an Angel unless he re-signs there long term.
No.
He's going to be remembered forever for where he signs in a few days.
Yeah.
And that's a really cool opportunity, I think, for these teams because you're getting the greatest talent the game has ever seen. You're getting a future Hall of Famer on your team. You're getting potentially, if his career continues this way, the greatest baseball player to ever play the game of baseball. And he will forever be a insert team. And that doesn't end when his career does. That still continues to bring fans to the stadium because, oh my God, Shohei played here. I remember the first time I went to Yankee Stadium, to old Yankee Stadium. Oh my God, Babe Ruth played here. He stood in that batter's box. That's so cool. He'll continue to sell jerseys, to put people in the stands, to be a legacy forever in that city. And I think whatever team ultimately signs him, potentially in the next few days, will forever change the landscape of baseball and has an opportunity to sign a player that might be the greatest baseball player of all time and have him go into the Hall of Fame wearing your team's hat And I just think that's such a cool opportunity.
I mean, worth every penny.
Yeah.
Worth every single penny. All right. This is so exciting. Again, we're going to be on Shohei Ohtani watch now until he signs, because apparently it's happening this week, which is really exciting. But now we're going to move on to a new segment that we're doing, okay? Top 50 players for 2024. So think about it like a one-season fantasy draft, right?
Yeah, essentially. So top 50, like you said, and I put some time into this. It is very difficult to come up with, not necessarily like which players are going to be in the top 50, but like picking between 50 and 49, for instance, or even bigger, 50 and 51.
Yeah,
like,
who's not making it?
Who do you put just outside of the top 50? But every show from now until, well, whenever we get through the top 50, but it's pretty much going to take us up to the beginning of the season. Going to go through 5 players starting today at number 50 and go all the way up through number 1. So today will be 50 through 46.
All right, well, let's get started with number 50, Phillies catcher JT Realmuto.
Yeah, JT Realmuto comes in as the first player on this list, starting at number 50. One of the better catchers in baseball. I would say probably last year, not his best season, but as a catcher, to hit 252 with 20 homers, 63 RBIs, 16 stolen bases, 28 doubles. He does it all. He can run. You're not often seeing catchers steal close to 20 bags. He can hit for an average. He can hit for power. He really limits people on the bases. He, again, one of, if not the best catcher in baseball. There are some young guys that are taking a big step and maybe have passed him, but I love JT Realmuto, and I think he's absolutely deserving of being on this list.
Well, let's move to 49, who was one of the biggest free agents on the market in signings last year, Dansby Swanson.
Yeah, I really like Dansby. And again, you have to think of what he brings to the table. It's a premier position, shortstop position, and you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody that plays that position better defensively than Dansby does. New team, new city last year, a lot going on. But I think he really came into his own at the end of the year. The second half of the season, he did really well. Ended up hitting 244 last year with 22 homers. I think he's going to take another step forward this year offensively and maybe get back to those numbers that we saw from him in 2022 in his last year with the Atlanta Braves. I like Dansby a lot. He's on this list at number 49.
Okay, from one shortstop to another shortstop at 48, Carlos Correa.
Yeah, was Carlos Correa good enough last year to be named a top 50 player in baseball? No, he wasn't. He had a down year. But before last year, you're probably putting Carlos Correa somewhere in the top 25.
Which is crazy.
Not a great year last year. 230, 18 homers, 65 RBIs, 29 doubles, some injuries mixed in there, some missed time. That's not Carlos Correa. It's the player before, and I'm not going to leave Carlos off of a top 50 list because of a down year. Carlos is great. He's a stud. He's one of the better shortstops in baseball. And unless he, again, has another really down year, I'm going to classify that year, and I'm going to chalk last year up to a bit of an outlier, just a down year. Carlos Correa will be back this year for the Minnesota Twins and will be a really good player and the best offensive player next year for the Minnesota Twins.
It's also not how you start, it's how you finish. And he had a great finish to the year last year. Like,
of course he did.
Once the playoffs, that's what happens. He comes alive and becomes a new player. So that's kind of what you have to go off of, the trending in the right direction to get back to that player that he was years prior. All right, let's move to number 47, Blue Jays first baseman, Vladdy Jr.
Yeah, if I'm a Blue Jays fan, I'm getting a little worried about the production from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It's now been, other than that 2021 season where he was pushing Shohei for a bit for MVP, Triple Crown, all that stuff he had going on. After that, Vladdy Jr. has been good, not elite. And the Blue Jays lineup needs him to be elite. Last year, he hit 264 with 26 homers and 94 RBIs. Guys, that's a good year. That's a good season.
Solid.
But it's not elite. And Vladdy was showing himself when he came into the league in that 2021 season that he's elite. And he's one of the best players in baseball. And he's young. And the Blue Jays have a guy in that lineup that they want to be there for a long, long time. That's going to be one of the best players in baseball. I need to see that again from him. I have him in my top 50. I have him at number 47. But right now I'm a bit concerned with Vladdy Jr. and the fact that Yeah, he's good, but he's not the elite of this game. So we'll see what he's able to do this year, but I slid him in here at 47.
Well, I mean, I think the top thing he did last year was winning the home run derby. But that doesn't count towards the regular season. We need to see something like that during the season and into the postseason.
Yep.
All right, let's get to number 46, our first pitcher, Max Fried.
First pitcher on the list as we get here to number 46, Max Fried. I really like Max Fried, and it was unfortunate last year with some of the injuries that creeped up. But if you just look at his numbers, he was 8-1 with a 2.55 ERA with 80 strikeouts. I really think Max Fried was ready last year to have a career year, to have his best year yet. And I do think he'll be able to do that next year. But I'm not yet ready to put him as a top 10, 20, 25 player in the league. Unfortunately, with that injury last year, we'll see what's able to happen this year. I do think he's one of the best pitchers. 2.55 ERA last year. He slides in as first pitcher in the top 50, Alex. He's at number 46, Max Fried. So that does it for, we're going to do 5 every episode every week leading up to the season. But our top 50 players for the 2024 season is underway with JT Realmuto, Dansby Swanson, Carlos Correa, Vladdy Jr., and Max Fried.
All right, we're going to wrap up today's show with some fan questions. We got some good ones.
Okay.
As we mentioned, we love hearing from you guys, so always tweet at us at Flippin Bats Pod. But let's get to our first fan question here today, which is, should the Padres be getting greedy with Soto, or is that going to hurt them since they're asking for so much?
Hear me out.
Okay.
Great question. Yes, they should absolutely be greedy with Juan Soto. Let's take a step back to just 2 seasons ago.
Okay.
When the Padres traded the farm to get Juan Soto. Okay? You traded away so much. With what's out there at this point, you should absolutely be greedy with Juan Soto. Don't trade the farm and then expect much less. I get there's less control, but hear me out. If you don't feel like you get the perfect offer for Juan Soto this offseason, within the next few weeks, don't trade him. Have him in your lineup. And if you, at some reason, get to the trade deadline and you're out of contention this year or not having the year you wanted again, you're going to be able to get him for about the same thing that it sounds like he's going for right now. The only real offers we've heard out there are from the Yankees and how they've gotten to the point where they're exchanging names, but they're not there yet. And it seems like the Padres have pulled back a little bit because they don't like what the Yankees are offering.
Yeah.
So, just
Blue Jays, too, a little in the conversation.
Yeah, there's definitely teams in the conversation here. But to answer the question, you should absolutely be greedy. You gave up a lot to get him.
Yeah.
He's one of the best young hitters in the game of baseball. Let's not forget, Juan Soto is still one of the youngest players in the game of baseball. Juan Soto's younger than Julio Rodriguez.
That's crazy.
I mean, he's one of the younger players in baseball still. He's just been around for a long time, so everybody's like, yeah, I mean, he's a savvy vet. No, he's not. He's not even to his prime. He's coming into his prime, and he's already shown that he's got one of the best eyes of all time, and he's in conversations with Ted Williams. Be greedy. Keep him in your lineup. You can get about the same thing for him at the trade deadline that it seems like you could get for him right now. So don't settle for anything less than what you really want for Juan Soto. If you can make a move for him that changes your franchise going forward, look into it. But don't take something less than you think because, well, what's the point? Like, we should get him off, but we should get him out. We should get something for him. No, your team's going to be really good this year, and have him in the lineup. And if the same thing happens next year where you get to the trade deadline and it's like, what should we do? Trade him for about the same thing it sounds like he's going for right now.
Fair. Okay, let's get to our next fan question. Do you think that the Orioles acquire a difference maker for the rotation? You hope so.
I feel like it's gone on a year and a half now of me saying, Orioles, I don't know if you're looking, but your window's opening. And now it's wide open. Your team is here. It's ready to go. You already had ownership come out last year during the greatest season for the Orioles that we've seen in a long, long time and say, hey, fans, let's pump the brakes on our excitement here. We're not going to be able to pay all these guys forever when it really just seemed unnecessary to do that. Well, okay, let's look at that. Then your window is even shorter than maybe people think. Your window's right now.
Yep.
And what were they clearly missing in the playoffs? 2 things. One of those being pitching, 2 being playoff experience. You got the playoff experience. Now you need the pitching. And all of these names are getting floated around out there. And the Orioles team is never in the conversation.
No.
Dylan Cease, Braves. Where the hell are the Orioles?
Yeah.
You need an ace. You need starting pitching. Sonny Gray, signed, gone. Dylan Cease doesn't sound like he's in the conversation there. All of these pitchers. Blake Snell, where are the Orioles in these conversations? It's what you need. It's right there in front of you. Your window is fully open. Your pitching is in dire needs of an ace and a number 2. Go get it done. Get in the conversation. Do I think the Orioles acquire a difference maker? I don't know.
You hope so.
They need to.
You hope so.
But do I believe in their ability to do it and ownership to go out and do it?
They haven't shown it.
I don't. They have to show it for me to believe in it. So I'm going to say, I don't know.
50-50?
No idea. But it needs to happen.
Yeah.
And it needs to happen fast.
Yes, it does. All right, we got one more fan question from me for you guys. And it is, how can my White Sox become a contender again? Is this from Logan?
It's a great question. Producer Logan on the team, a diehard White Sox fan, comes to work every day just down in the dumps to hear me talk about baseball. And it's really given him a joy to hear me talk about Shohei Ohtani to the Cubs. He's really loving that. So how can the White Sox become contenders again? I'm going to answer this without it being like a joke of an answer of burn it all down, build it all back up. What needs to happen is they've mentioned everybody and anybody is available to be traded away or moved out. And apparently that even meant Jason Benetti, who was on the show last week and talked all about moving to the Tigers as their play-by-play guy. I love Jason Benetti, and honestly, it was one of my favorite interviews. He's an incredible person, an incredible dude, and go ahead and listen to that. If Tigers fans, White Sox fans, or fans of baseball at all, he really, really was awesome. But apparently even their play-by-play guys on the blocks, Alex. That's what needs to happen. Trade Dylan Cease. Get something for him. Trade Eloy Jimenez. Get something for him. I don't know what you can get for him because the guy needs to stay on the field more often than not, but there's talent there. I wouldn't hesitate to trade anybody. And White Sox fans might not agree with this, but I wouldn't even stop at Luis Robert Jr. You could get a lot for him. I think he's going to be a MVP candidate in this league for a while. I think he's one of the best talents in baseball, but what is that doing for them currently? Nothing. And I'm not saying trade him. I'm saying shop him around. See if you can get a game-changing trade, a future organization-changing trade for a guy like Luis Robert Jr. But trade away your pieces, trade away anybody, get something for them, and start all over because it did not work. And a lot of the reason for that was the culture within the White Sox organization this entire time. So trade them, get stuff back, change the culture. There's a lot that needs to be done. And if you think for 1 second the answer for the White Sox is figuring out what's happening on the field, you're wrong. The answer starts with figuring out what the hell is happening within the organization and then going from there because they're doing it all wrong. They're doing it terribly. They're hiring their friends. They're hiring their friends' friends, and they're saying, let's have fun running a baseball organization. Well, it ain't fun being awful every fucking year. Be better. God. Pisses me off.
What I love is that we kind of got the curtains pulled back this year and was like, oh, it's a shit show.
It is.
It is bad. We heard from like top to bottom. So yeah, if you can't tell, Ben is extremely passionate and heated about this.
Yeah, I didn't expect to get all heated about the White Sox.
That wraps up our fan questions here. And we got a little extra innings and we got a congratulations in store.
Yes.
Jim Leyland.
Jim Leyland heading to the Hall of Fame. One of my favorite people in baseball. Got to really grow up around him.
Yeah.
You know, my brother's 9 years older than me. Signs with the Tigers when I was still in middle school, and I got to go in the locker room and be around that team, which included guys like Jim Leyland, who are already a legend of the game, but he makes it to Hall of Fame. Here's a picture here I tweeted out. This is Jim Leyland, myself, and Justin. I was very, very young. I don't know what I was doing with my hair down below my hat like that.
The bangs down below the
Alex,
hat?
that was my haircut until I was like 20, 21. I just had like a straight bowl cut all the way around. Never did anything with my hair. But this isn't about me and my hair. It's about Jim Leyland making it to the Hall of Fame. Very much so deserved. Justin tweeted this as well. Congratulations, Skip. I'm so incredibly happy for you and your family. When we first met, I was so nervous. You were already a legend.
Yeah.
You quickly became more than just a manager, but a friend. Thank you for your faith in me from the beginning. And for Justin to tweet that is, I think that shows how much he meant to him. And having a manager like Jim Leyland, the second Justin comes in the league, I think it's a big reason for the success that he's gone on to have. It's not a manager that comes in and babies guys and babies the number one draft pick for a team and says, hey, I know you're in trouble. You've thrown 4 2/3 good innings. You're in a bit of trouble here. We're going to take you out. No, Jim Leyland made Justin work through those times and made him get through those tough times and made him push through a little bit of trouble later in the game. And I think that allowed him to be the pitcher that he ultimately became, where he gets better and better and better and better as the game goes on. And I think the manager that Jim Leyland was allowed him to do that. Jim Leyland, a guy that I obviously remember with the Tigers, but won a World Series with the Marlins, was Barry Bonds' manager with the Pittsburgh Pirates back in the day. He's been around. He's done it all. So much deserved. For so long in his career, you could find Jim Leyland up the tunnel in the dugout ripping some cigarettes. The guy's just an all-time legend.
Just a complete legend.
Congratulations to him on making it to the Hall of Fame. So, fun episode, Alex. This one was a lot of fun. Be on standby. Keep your phone on loud.
Until Wednesday.
Keep your phone on.
Until Wednesday, and I'm gone.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to be in Cancun, so you might be solo. If the Shohei Ohtani happens after Wednesday, you're solo.
Alex is going to be kicking her feet up in Cancun while Shohei Ohtani is signing. Unbelievable.
I'm gone. I'm out of here.
Unbelievable. Well, keep your phone on. I'll let you know what happens.
I will.
And everybody, be on alert. Shohei might sign in the coming days, and we got a lot coming out for you this week. We'll have some interviews from the winter meetings. We'll talk Shohei when it does happen, so watch out for that. Fun week ahead. But thank you all for listening to this episode of Flippin Bats. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify. You can also watch everything on Spotify now as well, including YouTube. We're on all social media at Flippin Bats Pod for all of them. But that does it for this first episode of the week. Until next time, my friends, peace.